Woohoo! Okay. Happy March. This is the first waivers report for March. Bringing the mini mic back felt like the right time. So, okay, I'm quickly going to recap February, and then we're going to get into March here because, wow. As you guys know, I've been talking a lot about how 2025 is this kind of like amazing astrological year. I think, for those who are like really interested in astrology, this is just such a fascinating year. And it's such an exciting year to just be able to witness, right? And to kind of be participating in these like massive cosmic events. And so what I've been sharing is that the reason that 2025 is so interesting is because typically when we talk about the planetary shifts, right, we have the inner planets, the sun, moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, right? And even Jupiter. They move quite often. They shift signs, at least once a year, like Jupiter shifts once a year, but the rest, they're rotating throughout the zodiac, throughout the year. So it gives us the different energies, it gives us different opportunities. But when the outer planets shift, this creates much more of a global impact, much more of an impact on society and the consciousness and these kind of massive, more paradigm shifts, right? And so typically when we have an outer planet such as Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, Pluto changing signs, we get that in increments, right? Like we have time to kind of adjust to the new energy, to the changes that we will inevitably experience because we are connected to the cosmos. We are all one. There is no separation. But 2025 is, 2025 to 2027 is massive, right? And this is because all of the outer planets are changing signs in the same year. We already had a brief 8 months with Pluto in Aquarius in 2024. I felt that was cosmically aligned because Pluto being the most outer planet, right? He creates a really big paradigm shift when he changes signs. And so we got to start that adjustment in 2024. Now in 2025, we already have Pluto officially in Aquarius. We had the North Node enter Pisces and the South Node enter Virgo in January. And so February was this interesting month where we were in an integration. It was a lot of integration. I'll briefly recap that in a second. Why March is so exciting is because we have the next big outer planet shift, which is Neptune into Aries, which hasn't occurred since the 1800s. And then in May, the end of May, we're going to have Saturn enter Aries as well. And then in June, Jupiter is going to enter Cancer. She does shift once a year. So it's not necessarily that that's so rare and big, but we've had a lot of Cancer themes going on as well. Mars has been in Cancer for like 4.5 months. And then he was retrograde in Cancer for 2.5 months. And he's now direct, but he's going to stay in Cancer until April. And Mars only goes retrograde every like 2 to 2.5 years. So, it's a moment for us. And so we have a lot of Cancer themes kind of coming through again. And then in July, we have the final big shebang, which is Uranus shifting out of Taurus and into Gemini. And later in the year, like the last 2.5 months of the year, some of these outer planets are going to retrograde back into the critical degrees of their previous signs. So it will be kind of a big integration moment at the end of the year, but also will be interesting because these outer planets will be at the critical degrees again. And then come 2026, all these planets are now moving forward again and going to be officially in their new sign. So 2026 will be almost the entire year where we have this new, wildly new, fresh energy. And Chiron will also change next year out of Aries and into Taurus. So Super exciting stuff. So just to recap February a little bit, we had placed a big focus in February, as it is like the two energy. It was a lot about merging, right? And merging means so many things. It was the merging of realms. We've had a stellium in Pisces going on almost the entire month, where we had Venus in Pisces previously. She's now in Aries, but we did have Venus in Pisces. We've now entered Pisces season. So the sun is in Pisces, Mercury is in Pisces, Saturn is in Pisces, Neptune is in Pisces, the North Node is in Pisces. So we've been in like swimming in this Piscean energy. And so Pisces is very much about, the merging with the all, the interconnectedness. It's the connection to the other realms, connection to source. Pisces is an extremely fluid energy, and it can sometimes bring some confusion, a little bit of what I call the lost in the sauce energy, which you could have felt during February. There was a lot of lost in the sauce going on. But there was these merging of timelines as well, which I started talking about back in November of last year, where between the 11/11 portal and the end of November, we had a timeline merge that happened. And that was the first, I'm sure maybe this has happened previously, but we felt it very viscerally, where the lower timeline and the higher timeline merged together into one, into the golden timeline, right? I did post about that. And so first wavers and those who were operating on the higher timeline had this kind of massive initiation into what I call hyper processing, which meant that we were absorbing all that really dense, sticky, lower vibrational energy, and we were having to hyper process it. And this was ultimately because Mother Earth began her ascent in November of 2024. Obviously, we've been in the ascension for a long time, right? We're knee deep in the ascension, but Mother Earth herself was signaling to us she's beginning to move, meaning she was always going to return to her natural state, which is the fifth dimensional frequency, right? Which the base of that is unconditional love. So she was beginning her physical movement to that. And so because of that movement, we had to process a lot of what was being purged out to kind of help her. That's what we're here to do. We're in service to Mother Earth. We're in service to creation. And since then, I've been talking about the moving of Mother Earth's baseline. And by the end of the year in December, her baseline had shifted up from 7.8 hertz to about 22 by the end of the year, which is when we started to process and dissolve the frequency of shame, which lies at 20 hertz. And that was a big theme rolling into January. Mother Earth continued moving her baseline up. And by the way, this is just my personal downloads. Like I always say, take what resonates, leave the rest. If it doesn't resonate for you, that's perfectly fine. This is just my downloads. These are just my feelings, where I was given this kind of really clear vision that leading up to the 7/7 portal, which is Gemini, or Uranus entering Gemini, which completes the transition of all the planets into their new signs, right? Even though they'll dip back later in the year, this is the completion of kind of this new energy. And so I was given this really clear vision that Mother Earth was going to raise her baseline to 200 by the 7/7 portal. 200 on the vibrational scale is where the ego dies. It's also where the third dimension no longer exists. The third dimensional state, the duality, the matrix, the ego, the lower vibrational energy, right? Anything under 200 is a life draining frequency. It's a death frequency. And so by the 7/7 portal, she's moving her baseline up where she's not going back. She's not going back down anymore. And so we're rising with her, but that will be the official that's the end of 3D. This is the timeline that we've been given. Like, we've had a lot of time. Humanity is way behind schedule right? And so Mother Earth's just, she's not waiting anymore. And so, she's been steadily moving up. And in February, we really started to feel this, where as of right now, again, just my guidance was that she's sitting around 57 to 59 hertz. And so through the month of February, what was being pushed up and out was things that fell between those vibrations, right? Which were things like illusion, just illusionary perspectives, victim consciousness, blame, projection. That was a lot of what February was. And because of this theme of merging, right, we talked a lot about also the higher selves beginning to fully merge with the bodies. That has to do with the North Node in Pisces and the South Node in Virgo, right? Pisces is the soul. It's the all, the infinite. Virgo is the micro, whereas Pisces is the macro. So Virgo has a lot to do with the actual physical body and the physical vessel and the details and the micro energetics, whereas Pisces is the macro. And so we're seeing this theme throughout February of this merging of the higher self essences, which I'll get into about March, coming into full embodiment in the physical vessel. And so we were kind of tasked with, we spoke a lot about relationships in February, like how to really utilize relationships as it's a mirror. Everyone outside of you is a mirror. And so we were guiding first wavers, right? Our goal in February was to reach the baseline, right? As Mother Earth's baseline is moving up, first wavers are being called to raise their personal baseline, what your baseline frequency is. And in February, it was to get to the 450 vibration, which has to do with discernment and understanding. And we can only reach discernment and understanding when we're able to basically see others that we have relationships with and things outside of ourselves and what they are showing us. What is the mirror that we're seeing, right? Relationships are such a beautiful way of seeing deeper parts of self that you cannot see, but also having the discernment, right, of knowing when another person is projecting onto you, knowing the difference between a projection and a mirror. When people are in blame and victim consciousness, we have to be able to discern those things and come to a place of understanding, which doesn't mean we enable the behavior, right? But it means that we understand the consciousness in which they're coming from and where we're coming from. And so we were kind of being pushed to place boundaries in relationships. And a lot of relationships kind of fell apart during February, any type of relationship. And this is just a cosmic divine timing thing, right? Was just like there are some dynamics in some relationships that were not operating in both being on the same vibrational level, right? Which requires accountability, integrity, communication, understanding. And so relationships that were not embodying that were going to fall away, right? Relationships that were not in equal energy exchange. One was taking and one was giving. There could have been a siphoning going on. So a lot of things fell apart in order for new things to fall together, right? And so towards the end of February 27th, there was a new moon in Pisces that was a really beautiful energy, where it was, and with all this Pisces energy, right? The message that I've been getting for this final week of February, which actually, because we just had Mars go direct like a couple of days ago, we had about the last week of February where all planets were direct. And beginning March 1st, we enter retrogrades again. So it was like this window, and it is this window of opportunity, because I'm going to put this out before March 1st. It's this window of opportunity. So one of the visions, or a dream, a vision, I can't even remember what it was, but was that this energy is so interesting with Pisces it's so just more than we can ever figure out. We can't analyze what's happening. We can't figure it out. We have to just stay in the heart and go with the flow. And part of it is like the immensity of the energy in Pisces, which really represents dreams, the infinite. Anything you can imagine can be real. Anything that you can dream can be real. And so, Mom and the Galactics were just kind of guiding me of like, this energy can feel really intense because there's almost this melting going on. It's this melting and dissolving energy, which can make us feel a little bit out of sorts. It can also make the ego start to panic because it doesn't understand what's happening and it's trying to figure it all out. But really, this window of opportunity is like, you can either use this very magical, very potent energy to create your biggest fears, or you can create your greatest dreams. And it is up to us to decide what we're going to do with that. And this leads me into March and why I'm so excited about March, because first of all, it's wild, which we're going to get to the astrology of it, but this is a pivotal month in March. So we're going to enter the 3 energy, right? Which the 3 is a lot about inspiration. It's not as dynamic and full of sudden changes like the 5 energy is, which is usually May. But it's more of like these waves of inspiration, this kind of excitement, childlike wonder of just like wanting to really jump into something new, wanting to follow a new direction. The 3 is filled with ideas and experimenting, and it's also a lot about celebration. It's a lot about connecting with other people. It's a very kind of lively, exciting, fast-paced type of energy. And so March is the official graduation of first wavers. I got this download last month and I kind of just put it to the side, as I mostly try to do, as Mom always taught, was like, when you get something through, you just let it go, right? You don't attach to it. And if it comes back, then it's real. If it continues to come back, your pings, your ideas, your feelings, your downloads, then it's real. And it just kept coming back to me. And so I'm like so fucking pumped about this, where the first wavers will be having their official graduation date at the end of March. And by graduation, I mean that one, our task for this month is to raise our baseline to 500. We must get to 500. And again, it doesn't have to be necessarily the entire, we talk about the 144,000 a lot. Really, they said it just 144 people. That's all we need. The light quotient, if you will. And so 144 people to move their baseline to 500, which is unconditional love. And by the way, right under 500 at 490 is forgiveness. We talked a lot about forgiveness in February in our seminars, which we said, hey, there's like a 7-step process through grief. There's at least a 7-step process through forgiveness. It does not happen overnight. We can't just be like, yep, I forgive it all. And we just, move along. There's layers to forgiveness, but ultimately forgiveness is freedom. It is freedom from no longer being controlled by our emotions, our resentments, our griefs. We are actually moving through the process of forgiving all that has occurred because we're so ready to create the new. Like we're just ready. We're done with the old. It is what it is, right? And we can also kind of see the beauty in it in some way. We can see the silver lining of it all, and we can let go and move forward. And that is what March is all about. So not only is it the first wavers graduation, the theme that I kept receiving was the new spiral of creation. We have been in the lower spirals of creation for 27,000 years, amnesia, darkness, ego programming, duality, etc., etc. March is a 3, the Trinity. And the new spiral of creation is a trinity. It is a perfect balance between yin and yang. And then the third energy within that yin and yang is source. And so it's magic. It's magic. It's a lot about harmonizing the yin and yang energies. This planet is going through a pole shift. Mother Earth is realigning her poles to her proper alignment, which is that this is a feminine planet. Again, doesn't mean we don't need masculine energy, or we don't need, we're doing away with masculine energy. No, but the feminine energy is to be leading. It is to be at the forefront, which is the heart, which is feeling, which is intuition, which is connection, community, love, right? And then, of course, we will still have the masculine energy of motivation and, executing and getting things done and actually making our dreams a reality and having a sense of sovereignty, a sense of authenticity, and a sense of real self and how that connects to the greater good, right? But that's the new spiral of creation. It's based on the Trinity. And it was funny because I just wanted to read a quick little excerpt of an article that I read that was super fascinating. And it was talking about, because right now we have Neptune at the later degrees of Pisces. The North Node is also in the later degrees of Pisces. So since January, Neptune and the North Node have been conjunct, which, doesn't always happen, right? Because Neptune's transit through signs is anywhere from like 12 to 16 years. So the likelihood of Neptune being in the same sign as the North Node and then having that conjunction is very rare. Now, even more rare is to have Neptune in her home sign of Pisces. So she is the ruler of Pisces. To be conjunct in her home sign, the North Node, has not happened in 819 years. And that this article I was reading was saying that the last time this happened, specifically in Pisces, was in the year 1206, which gave birth to one of these big spiritual movements called the Cathars. I'm sure if you're interested in history, you might have heard of the Cathars. And there was this big spiritual movement of basically honoring the divine feminine and the divine mother, Sophia. And it's just funny because I've been seeing a lot of people on social media talking a lot about, I even saw a video today where this girl was sharing how historically and through ancient texts, it was very clear that the missing part of the Trinity of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, well, guess who the Holy Spirit is? It's mom. It's the divine feminine. It's the mother. And that's what everyone's been missing. Now, I don't want to say I told you so, but we told you so. We've been saying this for 7 years. The Divine Mother is what has been missing from the entire story. The Divine Mother energy is returning to the planet. She is here. She already was here, and she's here again. And Mother Earth is reclaiming her sovereignty, her proper place, which is that she is to be honored. She is to be respected. So the divine feminine energy on the planet is really rising in a powerful way. And again, this is creating the new spiral of creation where there is a balance between yin and yang, but there is also the acknowledgement that with yin and yang, then there is source within that Trinity energy. Now we're starting out on March 1st with Venus going retrograde. So Mars goes retrograde about every 2 to 2.5 years. Venus goes retrograde about every 1.5 years. So again, not super rare, but it was just really interesting that the Mars retrograde that we just had was in the sign of Cancer, which is the archetypal mother. So the masculine energy was really getting called back to their heart center to really heal their mother wounds, their feminine wounds, to really bring all of us, doesn't matter if you're a masculine or a feminine vessel, right? Masculine, feminine soul. We all have the energy within. And so we were all called to really come back to our center, come back to our hearts, and really decide that, again, Mars is our masculine energy. This is how we make decisions. This is what we choose to put our physical energy into, what we choose to focus on, right? How we execute things. And we really had to get clear about this of, are we making decisions and are we executing things in the heart, or are we up here? Because when we're making decisions in the mind and putting our energy into things that are lower, that are, not in a higher frequency, we are affecting our timeline. And so we had to all really reflect and do some self-nurturing, some self-care, and really decide how we want to move forward. And that we have to move forward in the heart. And that's what this Mars in Cancer very long transit has been teaching us, and Mars will now still be in Cancer till April. And now the feminine energy, the divine feminine, Venus, has been in Aries, which is the warrior sign. She is now going to go retrograde on March 1st in the sign of Aries. Okay, and then she is going to dip back into the later degrees of Pisces towards the end of the month. So what is this teaching us, right? I think Venus, again, being our feminine energy, is more about how we receive rather than how we give and what we do. This is more about how we receive. This is how we self-love. This is where we choose to bring our creative energy into. Venus is about creating and connecting and loving, whereas Mars is about the doing. And so I think, again, no matter if you're masculine or feminine, we're all getting drawn back to, are we standing in our sovereignty? Like Venus in Aries doesn't take any shit. Like, she's very strong. She's assertive. She's following her passion. She is prioritizing her purpose above all else. She is fiery. She's following her excitement, her joy, what lights her up. And she is not going to allow anybody to put her down, to siphon energy from her, to cross her boundaries. So this is like a really reflective month where Venus is going to go back through Aries, dip back into the final degrees of Pisces, which I feel will be this like completed cleansing, this completed kind of healing in a way where we're all going to feel within where we have put our feminine energy down, which of course this is in the DNA, to suppress, to quiet, to enslave the feminine energy. And Venus in Aries is like taking no prisoners. Like she's going to go back through it all, and she's going to be like, no, we no longer allow this. And so it's really interesting this month, as obviously Aries is a massive theme. Now, Aries has been a massive theme for the last 2 years because the North Node entered Aries back in the summer of 2023. So we were all being urged towards that Aries energy, right? We have had, I think, 4 or 5 new moon solar eclipses in Aries starting back in 2023. We're going to have the final one in March. So there's been the cosmos have been yelling at us of like, this is time to stand in your sovereignty, right? Aries really represents the God self. This is about self-awareness, self-accountability, embodying God, walking the talk, right? Being it, living it. Aries is also fearless. And even when Aries feels fear, they do it anyway. And that's going to be that's been one of our themes over the last 2 years, was like, take the leap of faith. Stop waiting around for others to save you. Stop waiting around for something to happen and get on with it. Aries is like, just do it. And Aries follows their excitement, their passion, their purpose. They're really a very bold, raw type of sign. And so we not only have Venus in retrograde with in Aries this month, but we will also have Mercury, who is about to enter Aries shortly. Mercury is going to enter Aries on the 3-3 portal. Don't think that's a coincidence. And then Mercury will also go retrograde in Aries on March 15th, and then also dip back into the later degrees of Pisces at the end of the month. and then so I realized this theme that was emerging here. So we've got Venus going retrograde March 1st at 10 degrees Aries. We've then got Mercury going retrograde at 9 degrees Aries on the 15th. Finally, we have our final new moon solar eclipse in Aries at the end of the month on the 29th at 9 degrees Aries. So Venus was going retrograde at 10 degrees, but still this theme of about 9 degrees Aries was obviously very prominent this month. And I said, well, let's take a look at what gene key that would be. So this is not only where Venus is going retrograde, this is where Mercury is going retrograde, and this is where the new moon solar eclipse is occurring. 9 to 10 degrees Aries falls into gene key 21, which for those of you that have Richard Rudd's book, The Gene Keys, I highly recommend this book to everyone. Brilliant body of work. But the shadow here is control. So obviously, as we're raising our baseline to 500 this month, first waivers, I think what's going to get purged as Mother Earth's baseline again is going to move up this month. We're going to be facing a big theme of control. And I also feel grief might come about as well, because grief is within that window as well. And so some of the things that Richard Rudd says about the shadow of control is, and I'm reading right from his book, is he says, all control is rooted in territory. The 21st shadow certainly views life like this, and it's at a deep genetic and unconscious level. Now he says, today, the battleground of territory is really all about power and money. He goes on to say that that families are now more cut off from each other than ever before, and we have a world of every family for itself. He's talking about the nuclear family, right? He's talking about the fact that we don't view our communities and maybe even our friends and our soul tribes as family. We view only the nuclear family as family. And that this has led to this kind of deep separation, and almost like it's almost like tribalism, but it became tribalism in the nuclear family. And he says the issue of control is the issue of patriarchy. That's going to be a big theme this month. Patriarchal forms of government are the bedrock of society. Most of whom are in control are only interested in power and money, and those who are not interested in power and money are generally too submissive to take any action. Ain't that the fucking truth, right? It's like, that's why the ego thrives in patriarchy. It's just the truth. That is why the ego thrives, is because the ego loves power and money and control and, authority over others. They love that shit. And so they thrive in this patriarchal system, because the only way to get to these positions of power or authority, or really being able, I think, to just have this great impact, is you have to be fully in ego. You have to be narcissistic. You have to be sociopathic. Like, that's who gets to the top, right? And those who don't care about those things, I think apathy kind of sets in, or what he calls submissive, which is just like, well, I have no control. Well, I don't care. And so again, we're going to see this theme this month. Like, I love the beautiful traits of Aries, but it's also going to be quite uncomfortable for people who are really used to being apathetic and not taking any action, not taking a stand. It's going to be really uncomfortable for the third and fourth waivers who have kind of just been riding on non-action and apathy, right? So he goes on to say that the 21st shadow makes it seem as though you simply cannot defeat the patriarchal system. So most people's true visions for a better world are choked before they are even given a chance. He says, however, the first ripple of a new frequency is emerging into the world. There will always be people who are naturally gifted leaders, but at the higher frequencies, they see leadership as a service rather than hierarchical. And so, I think that, again, this is going to be a big month for first waivers and the 144,000. We have our graduation approaching, and it seems like there's a lot of themes pointing towards the kind of activation of the new leadership of New Earth emerging. So that's kind of interesting too. And so he says, the problem with the old system is not necessarily the model of the system itself, but he says, some people are naturally going to have more authority than others. I mean, everybody's got a different role. But he says the problem isn't that, it's the frequency of the people in the positions that are the problem. And so he, kind of goes on to say that some of the ways this shadow presents is either being totally submissive or being controlling. And so those are themes that we might see emerge this month. Now, the 21st gift, which is the higher level of this gene key, is called authority. And he says that authority is the true vibration of this gene key when it has found the delicate balance between allowing things to go their own way rather than assuming control of it, right? So it's like the true authority on this planet are people who are of the frequency where they can allow things to unfold without trying to control the process, but they also are able to have boundaries, to speak truth, to say this is not correct, this is not right, to stand for something without controlling it. And I think that's what we're really moving into this month. That is the God self, right? And he says that authority is really determined by our intent. And so he talks all about here in this gene key of that we are going to see the rising of great leadership. All the 144,000, the first waivers are natural leaders of this ascension process. And we're going to just kind of emerge. And he says it will require great courage from us, but that ultimately leadership and people obtaining positions of leadership will simply come by our frequency. It will just be this organic, natural thing that happens. And the Siddhi here is valor. And he talks about how, throughout history, we really worship and prioritize nobility, right? This idea that through your bloodline, you are a royal or you are this. So he talks about that. And he said the true nobility is DNA and that we must lead by example. And so again, I feel that really ties into, again, no one's above anybody else, but that the true nobility lies in being the God self. That is the true nobility. So that's a big theme that's emerging this month amidst all this Aries energy. Now, I also wanted to mention that we will have our first eclipse of the year on March 14th. This will be a total full moon lunar eclipse in 23 degrees Virgo. And I'll talk more about this as we get closer, but that's a really powerful moon. That's going to occur in Gene Key 6, which actually carries the shadow of conflict. So we might see a lot of themes being brought up about conflicts, differences, and the 6th gene key talks mostly about the conflict between masculine and feminine and how that must be healed. And the Siddhi there is peace. So we can definitely put the intention out that not only, I think we're going to see two themes emerging of it's the rising of empowerment, it's the rising of the God selves. For first wavers, a big theme this month is that your essences are big. They are large essences, okay? The 144,000 have large essences. Again, no one is better than the other. This is just a fact. This is just the way it is. Those essences are going to come fully into embodiment prior to the graduation, which naturally means we have to make space for that within our vessel. So this could be things like detoxing and releasing and stuff like that. But I think it's also about this very inner emptying out. The programming's got to go. Self-limitations have got to go. Limiting belief systems, all the shit that's going to block the magnitude of your essence coming in, it's got to go. And the outer world, what we call reality, will have to start bending and changing and making space for the magnitude of these essences that are coming in. And so we have this theme emerging this month. It's a lot about stepping into the God self, full empowerment, standing up for something, being firm and strong and fearless. But then also we still have these Pisces themes continuing where we're not to be in control. We are not to try and control this process, to micromanage it, to grip it tightly, but simply to also allow whatever needs to unfold, right? And the Siddhi of peace, I think we can pour a lot of intent into peace dawning on this planet. And the sixth Siddhi also talks about the rainbow body, the light body. And again, this is what we're all working with right now. Us and Mother Earth is returning to our natural state, which is the light body. Now, finally, at the end of the month, and then I'm going to talk about some of our events that we're going to be hosting this month, but the big shebang at the end of the month is Neptune entering Aries on March 30th. So this is the day after the new moon solar eclipse in Aries, which will be on the 29th, again, in Gene Key 21. The following day, Neptune enters Aries. Neptune has not been in Aries since the 1800s. My feeling on this, and there will be much more, I think, to share on this as we go through the experience of it. Neptune is consciousness. Neptune is the dissolvement of separation. It is the dissolvement of duality. And how Neptune does that is up to her. There's no rules with Neptune. She is pure consciousness. There's no right or wrong, good or bad, black and white with Neptune. However she accomplishes the rising of consciousness and the dissolving of duality is how she's going to do it. And so she's been in Pisces since 2011. What have we seen since then? First of all, mass spiritual awakening. It was an incredibly spiritual time. We also saw a lot of illusions and delusions, lies. It was hard to navigate sometimes of like, is this my energy? Is this the collective's energy? Like everything was in one big soup. But this also taught us discernment. It taught us to really focus on our own personal spiritual connections and our gifts to be able to navigate this shit show. It also taught us a lot about accountability. It doesn't matter if it's yours or it's mine. The energy must be transformed. So those who utilize this 14-year window to develop all of those skills, discernment, forgiveness, accountability, right? Really understanding the interconnectedness of it all. Things like compassion and empathy and grace. Also learning boundaries, right? If we made it through that, Neptune in Aries is when the source energy, right, is no longer just this soup that we're all swimming in, trying to decipher and connect with and feel into. It is now going to come through individualized selves, Aries. So for me, what I saw in my vision of connecting with Neptune and Aries was this is the line in the sand. In Neptune and Pisces, it was kind of really easy for people to get away with their bullshit. because it was really easy to blame others, project onto others, because it was all confusing. It was really hard to decipher what was what in Neptune and Pisces, which is why throughout that entire transit, Mom taught us about accountability. That's the only thing that you can do. Everything is just energy. It's not personal. Somebody's got to transform it though. Somebody's got to take accountability for it. And so, but it was really easy to kind of, be on your bullshit. Like you could easily kind of be in denial. You could easily kind of project onto others. You could avoid escapism, right? There was a lot of that. And I think Neptune and Aries is really the line in the sand where it's going to become extremely clear of who is walking the talk, who is actually embodying the God self, and who is not, or who thought they were, but they're not, right? They were in some type of fantasy. They were in some type of illusion. And again, there's no right or wrong, good or bad. This is part of the process. But I think Neptune and Aries is going to bring in this clarity that we have not had of like, this is exactly the path. I think we're going to get a huge wave. Neptune is also so imaginative and creative and dreamy. And that coming through the sign of Aries is about action. So I think there's going to be this huge, just creative wave of like, whatever we're passionate about, whatever we've been dreaming about and we've been really wanting to do, but we just, it wasn't the time, or we weren't ready, or we felt like we weren't ready. We trust the process. It's divine timing. So there's going to be this wave of where we suddenly want to put our dreams into action. We suddenly want to do the thing that we've been thinking about and dreaming about and feeling into. And there's just going to be this sudden wave of action, execution. And again, the God selves are going to now be walking amongst the planet with Neptune and Aries. And like I said, going to be real clear. There's not going to be any confusion here, right? Of who is actually embodying this and who is not. And I think that's a great thing for all of us, because we can see where we weren't seeing something clearly and be like, oh God, I see it now. I got it. And then we can also feel really accomplished and proud of ourselves of how far we've come. And I've also gotten a lot of downloads about like superhuman powers and I don't know how that's going to go, but Neptune is very superhuman. She defies all laws of reality. Neptune plays by zero rules, and you can't control Neptune. She is the source energy that can do whatever she likes. She's boundless. And so I think we also might just really be feeling that kind of superhuman magical energy. And so of course we're going to see how this feels, because there's so much to discover through this transit. But that is the day that the Galactic stated was the first waver's graduation. So for all of those who resonate with that information, this is our graduation officially out of the mind and into the heart. This means we have allowed our full essence to come into physical form. We are walking the talk, we are living it and being it, and we are being given the green light to claim the God self, because we have taken the accountability. We have become mature, responsible, spiritual people, and that we are now kind of given the grace of being able to be a co-creator with Source again. That power is being given back to us, because we couldn't handle it before. We were wildly irresponsible because we were all in the mind. And it's very dangerous for anyone in the ego or the mind to be given back their co-creative powers. I mean, that's Atlantis, basically, all over again. And we ain't doing Atlantis. So really excited for that. And then I'm going to end by sharing with you guys our events for this month. So to celebrate this massively big, exciting, interesting month. First of all, I will be hosting my monthly astrology gathering on March 2nd. So every month I'm doing an astrology gathering where we're going to go over in depth the transits of that month, how we can best kind of work with this energy, and, where this is hitting in your charts, individually, collectively, just what we can prepare for, work with, and get excited about for the month. So if you'd like to join me in that seminar, you can RSVP on the website. The next event we have is our Quantum Light Body Seminar. This month, we are doing it on the 3/3 portal, so the following day. Now, Mercury is entering Aries that day. So immediately my third eye envisioned with that was trumpets blaring. And I was like, okay, what is that symbolism, right? And it was that I got through very, very clearly. That again, for first wavers, those of you who have been in the light body process, this is going to be a huge activation of your throat chakras during this light body seminar. That as our full essences are coming in to the vessel, which is also something we're going to talk about. I'm going to encourage everyone to be speaking to their angels, galactic point people, in getting your percentages. The percentage of your essence that you're currently embodying. We would like to get to 100. Okay, that goes with the unconditional love, 500 baseline, right? So you can ask your angels on that. We will be going over that though in the light body seminar, of whatever is remaining that needs to be pulled out, let go of, released, to make space for these big essences to come in. The last final piece before graduation is to activate the throat chakras. I'm going to be talking about everyone's Mercury placements during that seminar. So you guys can pull up your charts, figure out where your Mercury is located, sign and house, and I'm going to be going through that. Because your Mercury placement tells you how your voice, all of our voices carry a unique frequency. And that doesn't even mean verbally, although verbally expressing is very powerful. It's how we manifest and co-create. So any blocks, we all have a lot of restriction in the throat, right? Because humanity has been squeezed, especially feminine, to quiet down, don't speak up, don't speak truth. And also sometimes our voice and our expression has also been suppressed in the way that we were programmed and conditioned to share and express in some way that wasn't authentic. It was simply what was palatable. It was how other people wanted us to share, what they wanted us to say, what was acceptable. All that shit has got to go. So we're doing a huge they're going to probably do a huge surgery on everybody with the throat chakras. Anything that's there, we're pulling that out. Anything that's been restricting our organic frequency and our personal expression, which again is very verbal, but it can also be, how you write and how you express, what your ideas and thoughts are into some sort of external thing. That can be through art as well. That's part of the throat chakra. So we're going to be doing that, talking about your Mercury placements, which is going to tell you where your most powerful frequency of truth and expression can come from and is best channeled into. We are all like an instrument in the divine symphony. And so if any one of us is not, our instrument's not playing, the symphony is not complete. So that's going to be a huge focus of the light body as well, again, of getting to 100% essence into the body. We will then be hosting this month's masterclass. It's always a 2-part class on the 15th and 16th of March. Now that is going to be right after we go through the full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo on the 14th. So during that masterclass, we are basically going to go through the final protocols and instructions from the galactics on preparing for our graduation. So we are going to be going over whatever they send through. We must reach the baseline by then, 500. So we're going to be doing some group work on reaching that level of 500. Anything the galactics bring through as far as what is remaining for us to transform. They're also going to be giving specific preparations for the graduation. So we're going to be going over that in the masterclass. And there are some more things that I know will come through for that, but that is the theme of that masterclass that they've instructed. And I'm sure we'll get much more information about that leading up to it. So you can also, of course, RSVP for that as well, the Light Body Seminar. Now, finally, March 30th, we will be hosting the First Waivers graduation ceremony. Now, this seminar, or not really a seminar, it's a ceremony, is open to anyone. It's free. There's no sign-up fee or donation or anything. So anyone is free to sign up for that if you feel guided to it and you feel like you are ready for that graduation. So again, I'm not exactly sure what Mom and the Galactics are going to have us do for that, but they are very excited about it. And I was guided that they will be bringing through something in terms of a ceremony that we're all going to be doing together that day. I'm sure they'll be sending messages and things to share with everybody, but that'll be a really big day that we are all coming together in unity, and we are placing not only the intention, but we are doing it. We are acting as if we are graduating into the God self, because we are. And so doing it together, having a beautiful, celebration and ceremony for us all, I think is going to be really fun. Super, super excited about that. So those are the events of March. That's what I have so far. Of course, I will be, putting out updates as we go along through each of these big events. I'll be putting out updates, sharing anything that comes through. And so this is really just a month. Again, as I said, we're entering this new spiral of creation. It's a lot of Aries energy. It's a lot of excitement. It's a lot of new beginnings. The old ways are not relevant anymore. The old journeys are not relevant anymore. Oh, I'm sorry. The angels just said I did forget something, which was that the reason we're doing thank you, angels, doing the throat chakra activation in the Light Body Seminar is not only for the expression, but is also for our communication channels. So the throat also connects to the ears, right? So as much as we're here to express truth and express ourselves and share, we're also here to listen and receive. So they're also going to be turning on the galactic communication channels, which is part of the new quantum communication system, which is telepathic in nature, is that they're going to be turning on our communication channels, which are through our ears. So the left ear is your communication to your higher self specifically. The right is the communication to your angels, galactic guides. And so that's kind of the way in which the communications come through. And the reason we're going to do that on the 3/3 portal is, again, to prepare for the end of this month. And in the masterclass, they're saying that we also will be going through some protocols to be receiving our new soul contracts, our God self contracts, which is different from the karmic contracts that we've been working through for like the last 16-ish years. We were completing the karmic contracts, the human contracts, and for those going through the graduation ceremony, they are also going to be talking to us through the masterclass in preparation for that about the protocols for receiving the new God self contracts as well. That will begin essentially in April, right after we go through graduation. So very exciting month. If you guys would like to join us in these events, you can RSVP on the website, and you can stay updated with through our Telegram channels and everything else. So I love you guys so much. Happy March, exciting times, and I'll see you all soon.